Hello and welcome to the next installment of Television Terrors, where we are going to be having a look today at the 1989 Woman in Black, which aired over the Christmas season on ITV and its various regional counterparts. I am, as always, joined by the delightful Noni Townsend. Noni, hello!
Hey!
How are you?
Delightful?
Yeah.
You've met me. I'm...
So, The Woman in Black. One of the reasons for suggesting it was, obviously, it's a great television horror, but also we had actually had plans to go and see the live show in Edinburgh before this craziness kicked off.
Literally tonight.
Last night.
No, I have been getting notifications from my my calendar all day.
Hang on. Let me look at the tickets. Wednesday the 22nd, you are correct. That was weird. Huh. Then I made a huge mistake by having the pizza yesterday.
Fair. That just means you get to have another pizza.
Yeah, it does. So yes, we were...
That whole bit's going to end up deleted, where, like, I said tonight, actually, and then it's going to cut to now.
Yeah.
So you can just pretend that you had the right day the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. That's just what it should be. But yes, we had originally intended a group of us to go and see The Woman in Black. And unfortunately, that is now delayed until February next year, which is around about the time the second peak is predicted. Huh.
So I really look forward to seeing The Woman in Black with you in 2022.
Yeah, it will be fantastic. Oh, well, by that time we'll have gone, oh, the vaccine's out of date, and everyone will be dead. So,
yeah,
we are never going to.
So we'll see it as actual ghosts. It'll be immersive.
Exactly. So we are never going to get to see The Woman in Black.
No.
But we have watched the Woman in Black television show. Now, this isn't about discussing the book. It's not about discussing the Daniel Radcliffe version, although I imagine we will...
I mean, it's good because I've not read the book, and I saw the Daniel Radcliffe version when I was about 15, so I can't remember it.
Excellent. So I may touch on it briefly. So a couple of points I just want to kind of rant about, and this may be my only opportunity to do it publicly. So...
I'm so glad that I'm helping you get a platform to just air your grievances.
Thank you. This is what it's going to become. It's basically all wrapped up as pretend. It's like, okay, so we're going to discuss the Woman in Black TV show, but really I want to talk about how badly cast Daniel Radcliffe was in an otherwise fantastic film.
I mean, fair. I do remember enjoying it, but also I remember being very scared.
It relied quite a lot on jump scares. And
yeah, but you forget that I find jump scares incredibly scary, and they normally make me cry.
That's fine.
So, yeah.
I will remember that for live performances in future. So
I love doing them. Please cast me as someone who gets a jump scare.
I will remember
Just don't put me as someone who receives one.
So you like to give rather than receive?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
I mean, first time for everything, isn't there?
Excellent. So far, about 80% of this is unusable.
I'm so sorry.
It's fine. Part of it is my fault.
You knew when you asked me to do this that, like, you'd have to cut out, like, 80% of everything I say.
I mean, so far, hardly any of it is ums and ahs.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I'm better now. It used to be that you'd have to cut out because I sucked at, doing the talking. Now it's just because I go wildly off track and say inappropriate things and bitch about people who might be watching.
Well, this is exactly what this is for. It's an opportunity to just let yourself go. It's therapy dressed up as critique. So
can that be the tagline?
Yes, it can. So what did you think of the TV film then?
It was far scarier than it had any right to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that when I was watching it, at first I didn't, because you told me that it was scarier than the film, and I remember watching it from the beginning and being like, yeah, maybe. because even when he was in the house, like the lighting was really kind of naturalistic and the shots were all pretty standard. So there wasn't really much in the way of like horror stylization. And even the woman in black herself was objectively not super scary. And yet she was goddamn terrifying. And I'm still afraid when I close my eyes in the shower that I'm going to open them and she's just going to be fucking there.
Yeah, I think I know the exact bit that you're thinking of, and
no, that's the money shot of the whole film.
It is that bit when I first saw it, the bit where he's lying in bed and just this
no,
and she just makes the way. It's just the way it's shot as well.
Yeah, and it goes on for so long, but it doesn't like outstay the scare.
Yeah. It is the one bit of it that is genuinely unnerving, and it is basically a jump scare, but it's
yeah,
it does go.
It's
on.
not like it's not like a jump scare like we think of one at the moment.
It's a much cleverer and well thought out placement as well.
I actually found it quite not maybe scary, maybe unnerving. When he sees her in like the wee graveyard by the house and she just starts walking towards him.
Yes.
And I was like, that was just shot in plain daylight. Also, we figured something out with like the timing, which was weird. But yeah, this shot in complete plain daylight of a woman in a dress walking towards a guy with like bad eyeliner on. And it was so upsetting to watch. It had no right to be that scary.
Oh, absolutely. Television can sometimes do things in a way that film fails to. I think because television, even though this was just under 2 hours, television has a little bit more freedom to play the slightly slower game, because people going into watching it as well are happy to accept, I think, a slower burn.
Yeah.
So I think there's one good thing to come out of it, and that is we have to mention that the dog survives.
Yes. The dog called Spider?
Yes, the dog called Spider.
Question mark. Also, I love that the first time you see the dog, the woman's there like, oh, he's never this friendly with anyone. It's so weird. But this dog, the actual dog, is obviously just not enjoying himself at all. And is like, at best, tolerating the attention, and then jumps down and tries to run away the first instant, and then it's just hauled back up again. It's like, oh, he's being so friendly.
He's much more content in the old house, actually, because you can see his tail wagging.
No, right?
I don't know how true this is, but apparently some modern films actually have an entire department dedicated to CGIing out wagging dog tails in films.
Yes, I read that. Yeah, because like the mean dogs, like even if they're acting mean and growling, they're just they're having such a good time that their tails are just going.
They're just pleased to be there. They're happy they're working.
I know, right?
And Spider.
That's lovely. That is the kind of CGI that I'm really glad has to exist. Like, I'm so happy that exists.
Yeah. So the film, there's lots of little bits to it, and there's differences obviously to the Daniel Radcliffe version. The Daniel Radcliffe version ends a lot sooner than this version does. I quite liked the interactions with his boss at work, the accusation that the boss knew something was going on there. It's
a very casual attitude towards arson.
Yes.
In that workplace.
Yes. But I found that it made it more interesting because it wasn't just the central characters that were kind of fleshed out. Pretty much all of the other characters had levels to them where you could see them as real characters, and the work office was a good example of that. So there was a few bits that did seem a little bit weird. Whenever I watch it, the pub, the inn, clearly just looks from the outside like an old town hall or something. It's always a bit weird watching that, and because it kind of takes me out of it a little bit. I kind of go, oh, they've dressed up a town hall for that.
I didn't even register that. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. It's one of those pathetic little things that I occasionally pick up on and go, huh.
I mean, you know what pissed me off?
What?
Right. So, getting to and from the house. The first time he goes, like in the middle of the day, right? Where he's like given a lift on the horse and cart, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, the guy picks him up to get him there, like at 1. Okay? So at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, he gets picked up and taken to the house, and the guy's like, okay, I'm going to head back to town. I'll be back to pick you up at 3. He gets back to pick him up at 3. They go back to town. When they go back to town, you hear the church bell go, and it dings 4 times, which means it takes an hour to get from the house to town, which means he left at 1, got there at 2, did an hour of work, and then went back, which means that the guy in the cart only got halfway back to town before turning around. Why didn't he just stay? Like, none of those times. That's such a bad idea.
This is the type of in-depth analysis that this show exists for.
I was just there being like that.
I hadn't clocked that. I mean, I had kind of picked up on the short time frame of him being there. But I hadn't picked up on the 4 o'clock thing in the town. Yeah, that's...
Yeah, well, it was because I was already being there going, that looks like quite a long drive. Like, for, 2 hours. Getting picked up at 1 and then picked up again at... So I was actually looking for it to be like, so how long did that ride take? Yeah, it takes an hour. Which is just, like, hilarious to me, but also kind of weird.
Yeah. So what do we think about the casting of the people involved then? I mean, there's the chap who played Arthur Kidd. I'm fairly certain it's Kipps in the book. It's an odd change to have made. Arthur Kidd. I thought he was very good. Fun fact about Adrian Rawlings, who plays Arthur Kidd. He also plays James Potter.
I thought he looked familiar.
In the Harry Potter franchise, he is Harry's dad.
Huh.
Arthur Kidd.
Yeah, it was. I did think he looked familiar.
Arthur Kidd is Harry dad.
Well, that's a funny wee circle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I don't.
Also, 2 of the other actors in there, Stephen McIntosh, I think it is, who was one of the office clerks, and the maid of the Kidd household, they were affianced in The Muppets Christmas Carol.
I've never seen The Muppets Christmas Carol, so...
So, wait, what? It is the greatest Christmas movie ever made in the history of ever. Like, literally, Jesus looks at it and goes, you know what? That's a better story.
Yeah, you forget that I missed a lot of big movie milestones that, like, everyone else in our generation had. For no apparent reason. Like, I never saw a Muppets film growing up. Any Muppets film. And I never saw... I saw a couple of Disney's growing up. But we only had, like, 3 Disney films that I can remember. We had Pocahontas. We had Little Mermaid 2.
And
we had Peter Pan 2.
Oh, wow, that's an interesting collection of movies.
Though, Return to Neverland fucking slaps. I will fight someone over this.
Okay.
It's a good film.
I'm sure.
Also,
it is.
I'll try is a fucking tune.
Okay.
But
yes.
Those are my spicy Disney opinions.
But yes, that was, yes, they were in The Muppets Christmas Carol, but obviously that means absolutely nothing to you because you are a heathen.
It's not my fault, okay?
Another Harry Potter connection. We've already got Harry's dad playing Arthur Kidd. His boss in the law firm is I forget his name now, but he was in the 7th film, I think it was, the Deathly Hallows. He was one of the guests at the wedding. He was the really old wizard who, I think he was a biographer or something.
Oh yes, I know the one. Yeah.
So yeah, basically so far this review is these are
The
things
UK only has about a dozen actors, doesn't it?
they do.
Though I think you've missed one.
Oh, have I?
Yeah. Okay. So, Kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the remake of The Woman in Black, is played by
Harry
Daniel
Potter.
Radcliffe.
Yes. This entire podcast is basically 101 ways in which The Woman in Black connects to Harry Potter.
The Woman in Black is Harry Potter canon, and I can prove. I'm so sorry. I saw the opportunity,
And you
I
took
was just
it.
like, I had to take it.
And you took it.
No, I did say in the first like 20, 30 minutes, I did say that the film was going to be a bit of a problem for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because, so you know my thing with Faramir and Baromir, right? That I was like...
Are these the
I
Hobbits?
was... No, in Lord of the Rings, I was like 20 before I realized that Baromir and Faramir were separate people.
Okay.
Because I hadn't really watched any of the Lord of the Rings as a teenager. I'd only seen them as a kid, and for some reason they just looked similar. So I assumed that they were the same person. And it just didn't occur to me that Sean Bean had died. So, like when that other guy showed up who looked kind of similar, I just assumed it was the same person.
Mm-hmm.
I bring this up because what I'm trying to say is that when it comes to like vaguely similar looking guys on film,
Mm-hmm.
and it's usually guys. I tend to be able to differentiate women a little bit better. But I find it really difficult to differentiate men, especially if they look kind of similar, and double especially if just everyone's wearing suits.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a film which was like 90% old balding white guys in suits. So there were a few times where I had to be like, is that a new person or have we met them before?
So I have another Harry Potter connection.
Oh.
So, the Woman in Black in the Daniel Radcliffe film was played by Liz White. Liz White was in Life on Mars with John Sim. John Sim, of course, played the Master to David Tennant's Doctor. David Tennant, of course, appearing in the fourth Harry Potter film.
I kind of want to see how deep we can get this to go. Like, the most convoluted.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
But no, it's a genuinely unsettling and unnerving film. And it's shot on a late 80s, for a late 80s TV channel around Christmas time. This is obviously, ghost stories have always had a weird connection with Christmas, and The Woman in Black is one of the best ghost stories that's out there. There's a lot of things within the film that it's certain elements within, like when you're outside with the mist and the fog coming in, you just hear the sound of the carriage and the screams.
Yes. Oh, that was a lot. That little soundscape was a lot.
Oh yeah, creatively it was wonderfully put together and deeply unsettling. And it's little touches like that. Like when he's in the nursery, he goes up to the nursery and it's locked. He goes down to get an axe and comes back and it's open. And he goes into the nursery and then all of a sudden the ball just falls to the floor.
Yes.
And then later on he comes into the nursery and it's all bashed up.
I was a little bit, so like, you know how he ends up with the wee toy soldier? I was a little bit worried at the end when he goes to give his kid a present. I was like, he's not, is he?
I thought exactly the same thing.
I was like, that's a bit grim.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing there. Speaking of grim, the ending's very much a downer, isn't it?
Yeah. I was there being like, I assumed that just one of the kids was going to die. But no, just the whole goddamn family. Just like that.
all of them out. And he goes quite strange by the end of it, because obviously we touched on the arson a little bit earlier on, where he just does a very bad job of burning everything in his office and causes a fire.
I was just there being like, he was there just vaguely kind of shoving it towards his fireplace, but he really wasn't trying very hard.
He really wasn't. But I liked the use of the woman in black. I thought she worked better at a distance than when she was close up, because one of the close up you just saw that it was just someone in makeup.
Yeah.
Which, restrictions of television shows at the time.
With the exception of that one bit.
Yes, that one bit where he's lying in bed. I think that is one of the creepiest and most unsettling moments I've seen in television.
Yeah, thanks. Cheers, babe.
Yeah, I'm glad I could help you out.
Love you too.
Yeah. It's something that has always stayed with me, and I think is why I consider it a scary adaptation, because as you mentioned earlier on, throughout most of it, it's unsettling, it's unnerving, but it's not really scary until that moment. Then it's very, very scary at that moment, and that sort of elevates the entire film's scare factor up a few levels.
It's like, have you ever heard the theory about aggressive dogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you know how, like, if you have a big dog, like a Tibetan Mastiff or something, and they're really, really chill, and you get a little dog like a Chihuahua, and they're just really aggressive.
Yeah.
And it's like, all dogs have the same amount of aggression, it's just in the Chihuahua, it's really concentrated.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They took the regular amount of scare for like a full movie, and they just decided to concentrate it down to that one little bit to try and make me specifically cry.
Yeah, 30 years later.
Yeah, that was their explicit goal.
Yeah.
It was like, that Noni bitch is going to get born in 5 years, and we're going to bring her down.
Yeah. It's just genuinely quite terrifying, and there's lots of things within it that, again, once you've had that scare moment, you can reassess certain things within the show. And I'm a little disappointed they didn't spend more time with Eel Marsh House, because there's a lot there that can be done.
Yeah, they were kind of in and out there pretty quick. I thought that the recorder was going to be more important, because they spent a lot of time on that.
Yes.
And they had him explicitly playing with it. So I did think that they were going to go back to that and sort of have there be like ghost voice on the recording or something like that, and it kind of wasn't.
Yeah, it kind of fizzled out a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, the house never felt as threatening as it did that I remember it feeling when I was watching the Daniel Radcliffe one.
Yeah, well, I mean, from what I remember from reading the book as well, it's plays such an important part of it, and that crash as well into the marsh is such a pivotal part of the story.
Yeah,
and it feels like there's a character that's been cut out.
In the house, like characters in the house.
The house as a character feels like it's underserved.
Yeah, it always felt way safer than it should have.
Yeah, it should have.
Do you want to
go on?
Sorry,
no, go on.
Saying, do you want to know a bit that made me laugh though?
Go
on. So it's maybe why I was never as scared for Spider. Why did they call the dog Spider?
Blame Susan Hill.
Sue, babe, why did you call the dog Spider? That's such a weird name for a dog. But yeah, when Spider runs off into the marsh, and I think part of the reason that I never had a chance to be worried about him was because how it happens, where the dog just runs off and then he runs, like, just turns like, ah! And it was so sudden that it was funny. It was too funny.
Yeah, there are bits like that.
Yeah. I think that's just like some especially old TV films. They just have bits that are just a bit funny now.
Yeah, it's interesting how things can change like that. So, how would you, if someone was to ask you to sum up what makes this a good piece of horror television, how would you do so?
I would say that it's good horror because it plays its cards close to its chest. It rations itself. It doesn't try and go all in all at once. It kind of takes time to build its story before it really tries to scare you.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of makes you feel a bit comfortable. I think that might be why that bit in the bed is so scary, is because you're comfortable.
Yeah, it's...
And then all of a sudden... ugh.
It's very much, it's an intentional slow burn. Some of the best horror stories in history have that slow burn, and the major incident happens at the end of it. So I've been reading quite a lot of Edwardian era ghost stories, and a lot of them have a lot of build up, and then the last page is where all of it happens. And this very much has the same feel to it. And I forget exactly when the book was written. I think it was early 80s.
87, I think. I was looking it up earlier.
All right.
I think it was 87, I think.
Yeah. So it's not contemporaneous to the period it's set in.
No.
But it certainly borrows a lot of that feeling. It's actually quite a short book. It's worth having a read if you get a chance to do so. It is one of the best pieces of television horror, and primarily because of that particular jump scare. It's amazing that you can take one.
Yeah,
event,
it's so pivotal.
Yeah, and it's what makes the adaptation stand out in my mind. Certainly, it's something that reminds me of the film, and it's one of the reasons I find it scarier than the Radcliffe version, because even though there are jump scares in that as well, they're a different type of jump scare. They follow a traditional setup with jump scare of the misleading element followed by the actual jump scare.
Yeah, I'd need to rewatch it. I think I remember the Daniel Radcliffe version being scarier, but I watched it when I was a teenager, and I think I have a mildly higher tolerance to horror now.
I think certainly out of the two movie versions of Arthur, the central character, the protagonist, I think this version got it better.
Is this the time that you need to get on your soapbox?
It is.
Cool.
I thought the Radcliffe version was a fantastic film with only one thing that let it down: the protagonist. Daniel Radcliffe is not a bad actor. He's not at all. He's so good. He's done a lot of good stuff. The problem was
he's too young.
Yeah, he is. I couldn't buy him as being a widower of a 3-year-old child, even though he was old enough to be so.
Yeah, definitely.
He was early 20s, so he's definitely old enough to be so. It just, even then, he felt a bit young. Even though he could have been, he felt too young, and it felt like gimmick casting more than anything. That it was, hey, this guy's really famous right now, we can get him, let's put him into it, even though he wasn't right for the role. And maybe now he would be. Now he's got a few years, even though he hasn't. I don't know. Maybe
he was trying to play a bit older.
He was,
but it was quite obvious, especially because everyone's knowledge about him is him playing, a kid.
Yeah. This was his first major thing after coming off the Harry Potter series, and I don't know. In live theatre, you can get away with it a little bit more. It's a little easier to play outside of your actual age than I think it is on film. I think theatre audiences are a little bit more accepting and forgiving of someone playing a little bit out of their age range. Whereas with film, it becomes very, very obvious. It's almost a reverse of that American high school casting where they always have people in their 30s playing 16-year-olds, whereas in this scenario we had someone who looked like a 16-year-old playing someone in their 30s. So that was the one thing that let me down about the Daniel Radcliffe version, which is for me why Adrian Rawlings was such a better, more perfect Kip or kid in this version. And yeah, so we've got a generation apart, 2 generations of the Potter family playing the same character.
Yeah.
So
I can't wait until they cast Albus Severus
as the next Arthur Kipps in 20 years' time.
Honestly, like, it's entirely possible he could end up playing Woman in Black on stage. In a bit. Because, kid.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen The Cursed Child. I don't know how old those actors are.
72.
Okay. Yeah. They should probably hurry up then.
Yes. So yeah, that's the Woman in Black is, I think, one of the best and most entertaining horrors. It's got quite a few things that do let it down that we've discussed, but I think overall it's elevated because of a very well put together scare towards the end, some great acting and performance, and just generally an interesting story that is being told.
Agreed.
So, Noni, thank you once again.
And thank you.
And remember to like, share, comment, subscribe. And please do have nightmares.